What if the most accurate mechanical movement ever built has no escapement at all? In 1960, Grand Seiko introduced its first watch, the manually wound Caliber 3180, born at the Suwa factory with a quiet ambition to rival the best Swiss chronometers on earth. The visible world of luxury tells you one story: a gleaming dial, a famous cross on the crown, a price tag that signaled status in any boardroom. But inside Grand Seiko, something else was taking shape. Something that would take 600 prototypes and decades of obsession to perfect. Spring drive began in 1977, inside the same Suwa facility. Engineers set out to do what the Swiss said was impossible: combine the mainspring power of a mechanical watch with the precision of a quartz oscillator without a battery in sight. The dial hides the movement. The movement hides the secret. And the secret is that spring drive uses a Tri-synchro Regulator, a glide wheel, a quartz crystal, and an electromagnetic brake to replace the escapement entirely. No ticking, no traditional balance wheel, just a continuous silent sweep. You are holding a watch whose regulation method exists nowhere else on Earth. No other company in the industry has been able to successfully duplicate it. That fact alone should stop you cold. If you want to keep uncovering moments like this, where a single invention rewrites everything you thought you knew about watchmaking, subscribe to this channel and let us know in the comments. Does the word spring now mean something different to you? But the story does not start in 1960. It starts long before, inside a factory that no one outside Japan had heard of, where engineers were already questioning the very foundation of horology. What if the balance wheel and the pallet fork were not the only way? What if the future of precision required abandoning the past entirely? The first crack appears when you look at a high beat movement. Grand Seiko's caliber runs at 36,000 vibrations per hour, while most modern mechanical watches beat at 28,800. That difference alone means the balance wheel swings faster, the energy is consumed quicker, and the regulation must be more precise. You might have believed that all high-end watchmaking converges on the same Swiss standard. Yet Grand Seiko chose a different rhythm, a faster heartbeat, a more demanding path. They did this not because it was easier, but because the challenge itself revealed something about the limits of conventional escapements. The disruption deepens when you realize that spring drive is not a quartz watch. It is not a mechanical watch. It is a third category, invented in Japan, perfected over decades, and still unmatched. The Tri-synchro Regulator uses the mainspring for power, the quartz crystal for timing, and the electromagnetic brake to slow the glide wheel to exactly 1 rotation per second. That wheel, smooth as polished glass, is what you see sweeping across the dial. No ticking, no vibration, just a continuous motion that feels almost alive under your gaze. Have you ever caught yourself staring at a watch dial under a loupe instead of checking the time? You know the difference between owning a watch and reading one. That moment of pause, when the light catches the polished facets of an hour marker, is exactly where Grand Seiko's secret lives. The finishing philosophy at Grand Seiko emphasizes distortion-free flat surfaces and razor-sharp edges, achieved through a technique called Zaratsu polishing. Each facet is individually mirror-polished by hand. The goal, as one watchmaker put it, is to make them sparkle like a diamond. Now imagine the time required, the patience. The years of apprenticeship before a craftsman is trusted to touch a single case. This is not machine-made finishing. The myth that Grand Seiko's polish is mostly automated collapses under the weight of the evidence. The escalation comes when you understand the scope of vertical integration. Every component in a Grand Seiko movement is manufactured in-house. The secret, as ever with Grand Seiko, was the ability to manufacture every component in-house. Not just the main plate and bridges, but the balance spring, the mainspring, the jewels, the lubricants. You probably assume that even luxury brands outsource some parts. The Swiss do. But Grand Seiko built its own supply chain, from raw materials to finished caliber, and that autonomy allowed them to experiment beyond the reach of any competitor. That kind of in-house mastery is exactly what separates a true collector from someone who just reads the dial. If you are the kind of person who wants to understand every layer, subscribe so you do not miss the next revelation. And in the comments, share the one component you always assumed came from outside. Here is where the invisible world reveals itself. The 9F quartz movement uses temperature compensation, a high-torque motor, backlash auto-adjustment, and a sealed structure to preserve lubrication. Grand Seiko did not simply take a Swiss quartz movement and put a different logo on it. They rebuilt the concept from the ground up. The climax arrives when you hold a spring drive watch and press it to your ear. There is no ticking, only the soft hum of the glide wheel, the frictionless sweep of the second hand, and the stillness of a mechanism that has no equivalent. Under a loop, you see the Zaratsu polish on the case flanks. The light does not scatter. It reflects as a single sharp line because the surface is flat within a fraction of a wavelength of light. That is not marketing. That is metallurgy. Each facet of the hour marker is individually mirror polished by hand, and the result is a sparkle that seems to come from within the metal. The watch does not just tell time, it holds light. The loop that opened with the question of the escapement now closes. Spring drive does not have one. It never did. The Tri-synchro Regulator is the answer, and no other company has been able to successfully duplicate it. The paradox is resolved. The most accurate mechanical movement in the world achieves its precision by abandoning the mechanism that defines mechanical watchmaking. And yet, the invisible world of Grand Seiko is infinite. The full story of their lubrication chemistries, their proprietary alloys, their micro-electromechanical systems has not been fully told. There are movements waiting to be discovered by those who know where to look. The second hand sweeps without a tremor, a quiet pact between the Sua craftsman and the wrist that carries it. The dial reflects light, but the movement reflects history. And the thread left open is this: if spring drive cannot be duplicated, what else remains hidden inside Japanese horology that the world has not yet seen? The invisible world is not a secret. It is a choice. And those who choose to look closer will find that Grand Seiko's engineering secret is not a single patent, but an entire philosophy of independence, precision, and patience. The surface has been peeled. The real depth still waits. The visible world tells you that a watch is a starter signal, a jewel on the wrist. But the invisible world, the one Grand Seiko built, tells you it is a companion for life. The balance spring, the mainspring, the glide wheel, the hand-polished facets, these are not features, they are relationships. A quartz watch from the store will keep better time than a Grand Seiko spring drive. It will cost a fraction of the price and never need winding, but it will never hold a story. It will never carry the mark of the craftsman who shaped its case by hand, or the decades of research that went into its regulation. You already know which one matters. You have been reading the details that the catalog omits. You have paused to see the light on a polished edge, and that pause is the difference between seeing a watch and understanding one. The invisible world is not hidden to punish the casual observer. It is hidden to reward the patient one. And the reward is not a better timekeeper, but a deeper connection to the relentless pursuit of an ideal that began in a quiet factory in Soa 65 years ago and continues to beat without a tremor today. This pursuit was not a marketing decision. It was an act of quiet rebellion, a declaration that the old world of watchmaking was not the only world. The Swiss had their rules, their traditions, their centuries of dominance. Grand Seiko chose to write its own. The proof is in the patents, in the prototypes, in the fact that a watch born from a 60-year-old ambition still runs ahead of its peers. No other company has successfully duplicated the spring drive. Not because they lack the skill, but because they lack the foundation. That foundation was built brick by brick, component by component, inside a single facility in Suwa. Every gear, every spring, every jewel was made under one roof by people who believed that the invisible world was worth the cost. The debunked myths fall away one by one. Spring drive is not a battery-powered watch. It is not a traditional mechanical watch. It is a third path, one that the industry said could not exist. And the finishing is not machine-made. Each facet, each edge, each flat surface bears the subtle signature of a human hand. The watch on your wrist carries the weight of that rebellion. The second hand does not tick. It glides. The case does not gleam. It holds light like a still pool, and the movement inside does not simply mark minutes. It marks the triumph of a philosophy that refused to follow. That philosophy does not live in a catalog. It lives in the space between the polished edge and the light, in the silence of the glide wheel, in the knowledge that a human being once stood at a bench in Sawa and shaped this piece of metal with their own hands. The rebellion was never about beating the Swiss at their own game. It was about refusing to play that game entirely. Grand Seiko did not build a better Swiss watch. It built a Japanese watch from Japanese materials by Japanese hands with a vision that owed nothing to Geneva or the Jura. That refusal is the thread that connects every great watch story. And if you want to follow that thread, subscribe now so you do not miss what comes next. Drop the word rebellion in the comments if you believe the best innovations rewrite the rules from scratch. The second hand sweeps. The light catches the hour marker. The case edge is sharp enough to feel like a secret. And the movement inside, born from 600 prototypes and decades of unwavering pursuit, beats on. Not because it has to, but because it is the answer to a question that only Grand Seiko had the patience to ask. The question was simple. What happens if you erase the compromise in a watch movement? Not refine it, not polish it, but remove the fundamental assumption that the balance wheel is necessary. Grand Seiko answered with a mechanism that not only rejects the Swiss standard, but makes that rejection invisible on the wrist. You cannot see the Tri-synchro Regulator from the dial. You cannot hear the electromagnetic brake engaging. All you perceive is the second hand sweeping without the familiar trembled pause at each beat. That smoothness is not decoration. It is proof that a different path exists. The watch industry has spent centuries perfecting the escapement. Grand Seiko spent decades making it irrelevant. And they did so inside their own walls, with their own hands, shaping their own components from raw material to finished caliber. The myths dissolve completely now. Spring drive is not a quartz watch with a battery. It is not a mechanical watch with better lubrication. It is an entirely separate category of timekeeping. Invented in Suwa in 1977, refined through 600 prototypes, and still unmatched by any competitor in the world. The finishing is not machine-made. The Zaratsu polish is applied by hand, one facet at a time, until the case flanks reflect light as a single unbroken line. The hour markers are individually mirrored by a craftsman who spent years learning to hold the polishing tool steady. Every component is made in-house. Every lubricant is developed internally. Every patent is owned by the same company that built the first caliber 3180 in 1960. The visible world of luxury tells you to look at the dial. The invisible world tells you to look at the movement. And the movement tells you that the most advanced watch on earth keeps time by abandoning the mechanism that every other watch depends on. The second hand sweeps. The case holds light. The myth is not just debunked, it is replaced by something quieter, deeper, and far more enduring.